You need to write down a couple things right early on, and then I'll leave you alone a little bit. I won't make you take a whole lot of notes, okay? But in order for this to smolder around in your brain and come out helping you close orders, there's a couple of definitions and things that you need to get down right off the bat, okay? And some of this sounds really fundamental, but humor me and write it down anyway, okay? Okay, first of all, closing sales is getting an order. So I thought this guy was going to teach me something. I really didn't know that already. But write it down, trust me. Closing sales is getting an order. And getting an order is nothing more than handling objections. Closing sales, getting an order. Getting an order is nothing more than handling objections. Now, a lot of what I'm going to share with you people is not going to be new. It's just going to be maybe a little different slant than you heard before, and maybe it'll sink in a little bit, and maybe it'll help your percentages of closing. The last time that I kept records was in 1983. And I was closing 92% of the people I called on. And I didn't even care about the other 8%. Okay? So we're talking about higher percentage of getting actual orders. Now I think the first thing you need to do is ask yourself, do I close as well as I demonstrate? Think about that. Do I close as well as I demonstrate? Many of you are extremely proud of your presentation because you've worked hard on it. And that's important. Thank God we have such an easy product to show people. But when you get into the nitty-gritty, and what gets orders is the close. So ask yourself, do I close as well as I demonstrate? Am I a professional salesperson, or am I a professional visitor? Am I a salesperson, or am I a professional visitor? Ladies and gentlemen, what you and I deal with out there, the public, we call them consumers. And I think it's very important that you understand that consumers live by the 11th commandment. And of course, everyone out there is a consumer. You are, I am, your mother is, your father is, even your brothers and sisters. We are all consumers. And the quicker you learn this in life, the better off you are. All consumers live by the 11th commandment. And the 11th commandment is, thou shalt, y'all getting this down? Thou shalt give salespeople as much crap as is humanly possible. And some of you snicker at that. Stop and think. If you don't believe it, you stop and think how you treat salespeople. Or better than that, how your parents treat salespeople. And you will come to understand that indeed that commandment is accurate and true. Thou shalt give salespeople as much crap as is humanly possible. Now some of you have been in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, okay? And like I said, we have a couple people in here that are going to start training tomorrow. But prior to the Vector experience, you as consumers were on the delivery end of this crap. Correct? Lately, those of you that are out of training and out in the field selling have found that you are now on the receiving end. Right? And what I'd like to do this evening is try to help you so that it doesn't splatter in your face. How's that? And what we're talking about here in reference to the 11th commandment, the word, if you'll pardon it, the word crap is synonymous with objections. They mean one and the same. In other words, thou shalt give salespeople as many objections as is humanly possible. Now, I want to give you a definition of objections. This is the Ken Schmidt patented definition of objections. And I find that the definition is a lot like my personality. It's very simple, but it's deadly accurate. An objection is anything the customer says, other than I'll take it. Very simple and terribly accurate. Anything the customer says other than I'll take it is indeed an objection. Okay? Now the problem that we sometimes run into is that new people, generally new people, are deathly afraid of objections. Usually new people figure that as soon as the customer says anything other than I'll take it, which by definition is a objection, that they are supposed to jump inside the sample kit, zip it shut across the top of their head, and blast out the front door. Because if they respond or say something to that customer, they feel like they will be, God forbid, high pressuring. And that is not true, and I shall prove that to you. As a matter of fact, I probably won't tell you anything up here tonight that I can't prove. Fair enough? Okay. So, new people are generally afraid of objections because they fear that they'd high pressure if they responded to the customer's objection. Now, one thing I think you should know is our business basically, a lot of times new people want to make it a whole lot tougher than it is. You know, there's a certain hump out there, you get over it, and this business really is pretty easy. And I'm not making light of it because you've got to make it over the hump, but a lot of times new people like to make it tougher than it is. And I'd like for you to understand that this concept that we're going to talk about tonight about handling objections, which is getting an order, which is making a sale, right, is true for all three of the phases of our business. If you get a handle on it as it relates to getting an order, you will also have it conquered to the other extremely two important parts of our business. Is it not a fact that our business consists of picking up the telephone and making an appointment? Can't do much without that, right? And let me back up one step. First step is getting the customer to give you reference names, right? If you got a pile of them, you're definitely in business, correct? Now then, second step, if you can pick up the phone and get an appointment with those reference names, and then you can go close an order, what else is there? Right? Now, please understand that objections pop up all over, not just when you're trying to get an order. Because when you're trying to get an order, the customer either says, I'll take it, or they object, right? When you're trying to get references from people, they either give them to you or they object. And when you're trying to get a phone appointment, they either grant you that appointment or they object. So once you figure out how to handle those objections, you got the whole thing licked. Right? Yeah. Okay. The first thing you have to learn, and that I shall attempt to prove to you, is that objections are not bad, like a lot of people seem to think they are. In fact, objections are very good. They're wonderful. They're the best thing that ever happened to you in life and in vector, and you got to learn to love them. Now you're going to think I lost my marbles. Marbles. You're going to think I lost my marbles. That's why all the marbles are floating around here. Maybe I have. But objections are terrific, and I shall, like I say, prove that to you. Okay? Example. Angela, here. Let us say that Angela, ever since she was about this big, and was able to sit in her father's lap, you know, in the car and hold on to the steering wheel like this. Let's say that Angela, from that day until today, has always wanted to own a Corvette. Strike a nerve. Okay, and now this is not just a whim, people. This is, I mean, she wants one bad. You get the idea? So she's been saving, or saved quite a while, okay? And finally, people, the big day comes when Angela has saved enough money to go down to the Chevrolet dealership and make the down payment on the car of her dreams. And if you people have never, some of you maybe have never experienced that day, you're in for a real treat. The day that you can go and buy the automobile that you'd rather drive than anything else on four wheels. Real treat. So picture now, stick with me, picture this. Angela gets up in the morning, it's Saturday morning, right? She doesn't have to work. She gets up, she puts on her face, and she takes, she has this big wad of money in her purse, okay? And down to the Chevrolet dealership she goes. Now, I have a question for you. Does Angela walk through the front door of the Chevrolet dealership like they used to in the old Western movies when they walked into the saloon? You know, blast open the door, walk in, and jump in the waiting arms of the first available salesperson and say, please take all my money I've been saving for the last 9 years, put me in hock all the way to right here, and sell me this Corvette, please. Does she say that?
No.
No, hell no. Now, let's backtrack a minute. Let's say that on the way into the dealership, she has to walk by the used car lot. They all have them, correct? And sitting right here in front of her to where she almost has to walk around it to get into the door is sitting a 1971 Ford. Two-tone rust. And the bumper is hanging all the way to the ground on one side. All 4 tires are skin bald. Windshield is cracked. And that little number down there by the speedometer says 17,000 on a 1971. You get the idea? Now, let me ask you this. Does Angela pause at this 1971 Ford and begin to invoke the 11th commandment? Hey! What is this? You want $800 for this piece of bleep? The tires are bald. Now people, that didn't sound like I'll take it, did it? Did it? Therefore that is a objection. The windshield's cracked.
Objection.
It's rusted out. And by the way, you know, I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. What is this 17,000 here? How many times has this thing been around the block? Objection, objection, objection. Now the question was, does she pause and start giving the salesperson a whole bunch of crap? Answer, no she doesn't. Important thing is why she doesn't. She doesn't because she is not interested in that Ford. Now tell me, what did she go down there to do? Buy a Corvette, correct? But you just told me she doesn't walk in the front door and say, please take all my money. Oh, no. Because first and foremost, Angela is a consumer. Therefore, we must invoke the 11th commandment before we buy anything. Right? Hey, what is this here? 24,000 bucks you want for this thing? And the gas mileage is estimated 23 miles per gallon. In this day and age, that's terrible. Objection. And by the way, you want all that money and it's made out of plastic. And where in the hell's the back seat? Objection, objection, objection. Why? Because she is interested. So from that, could we possibly determine that objections show interest? Yes, that is a fact. So now you tell me, are objections bad or do they show interest? Interest. Exactly. And therefore, they are the greatest thing that ever happened to a salesperson. Because without them is when you're really in trouble. It's when you don't get any objections that you don't have a prayer. So you got to learn not to be afraid of them. You got to fall in love with them because they show interest. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were selling 1971 Ford Cutlery, There would be no objections. Do you know why? Because there would be no interest. And, of course, there would be no sales, by the way. But you're not. You're selling 1989 Corvette cutlery. And because everyone's interested in it, and I did say everyone, because everyone is interested in it, everyone objects. And you and I both know it. There's one or two people in the room who haven't started their training yet. I'm going to open their eyes to it right now. You know that you get objections on every call you go on. Unfortunately, I hate to burst your bubble, people do not rush out in front of your car on the freeway and say, "Stop! Sell me some Cutco." But objections are not bad, they are indeed good. Now, I mentioned that everyone is interested. And some people might say, "Well, I don't know if that's true. You told me you're going to prove everything you said." I don't know that everyone's interested. Well, I know it, and I will attempt to prove it to you. You are going to spend a long time trying to find somebody that doesn't want it, or that doesn't like it. I venture to say that probably no one in this room has found anyone yet that doesn't like it. I've been searching for 23 years. I have yet to find that individual. Okay? And yet every sale I made was packed full of objections. But they all are interested and they all want it. Suppose, think about this one for a minute. If you don't buy that, think about this. Suppose that when you were hired, we would have hired you and told you that your job, what you have to do to get paid, is to go around giving Cutco away free. Do you think you'd have been good at it? I would be great. I would be so good that I would probably scare myself. Imagine if your job was to walk down one side of the street and bang on all the doors, and then come back up the other side banging on all the doors saying, "Good morning, Mrs. Jones. I have this beautiful Homemaker Plus 8. I'd like to give it to you free." Okay? You think you'd have any trouble giving it away? Now, from that, could we possibly assume that everybody is interested, or maybe everybody does want it? If you're not convinced, try this one on. Suppose, if you would, that tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. sharp, terrible hour that it is, let's suppose that tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. sharp, in every home in America where the Cutco product has been shown, but nobody bought it. They didn't buy anything. And that's a lot of houses. I got a lot of them houses out there myself. You got a pile of them out there, right? So between us, that's a lot of houses for the last 40 years, correct? But in every one of those homes, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., the Homemaker Plus 8 drops through the ceiling onto the breakfast table, miraculously. My question to you is, how many of those people do you think would put it out for the garbage man? Think about that. I don't think that the most poverty-stricken area in New Orleans, or Baton Rouge, or Biloxi, or anywhere else in the United States would put it out for the garbage man. Do you? And I don't think your richest, most elite $3 million estate homes would put it out for the garbage man either. Do you agree? Make sense? So I think from that we could probably glean that everybody likes it, or wants it, or is interested in it. Fair enough? So, if everybody wants it, what could be simpler for us than to help them get it? And you say, "Well, that really sounds good, but I've been out there busting my fanny and it ain't quite like that." Well, that's what we're going to try to help with tonight. First of all, I think maybe it'd be a good idea for you to understand why people don't buy Cutco. Some of you think you already know that, and some of you might. I would venture to say that a lot of people in this room probably think, and you're wrong, that the biggest reason why people don't buy Cutco is because it's too expensive. Because that's what the customer told you. But that's wrong. Let me tell you right now, and understand it, the biggest reason why people do not buy Cutco. Because we just established everybody'd like to have it, right? If we were giving it away, they'd accept it. So let me tell you why. The biggest reason why they don't buy. And once you get a handle on this, you'll be a lot better closer, if nothing else. The biggest reason why people don't buy Cutco is because you, we, us, in this room, did not help them rationalize spending their hard-earned money on a set of knives. Period. You and I missed the boat. We did not help them rationalize spending their hard-earned money on a set of knives. They all want it, correct? They would take it if it was free. And all our job is to let them know that, hey, it's okay to spend your money on a good set of knives. Because if you get over that hump, since they all want it, that's the end of it, correct? And once you understand that, I think you'll be a lot better closers. Now, I think it's important that you understand also that every consumer out there, every person, every individual, you and I, everybody, we all have a little tiny number in the back of our brain, right here. And that number represents the number of reasons that you need in order to justify spending your money, or that the customer needs to justify spending their money. Now, it would have been really nice if the good Lord would have saw fit to put that number right here in bright, blinking, neon red lights, so that you and I could walk into the sales call, sit down with the customer and say, oh, Mrs. Jones, I see your number is a 13. And reel off 13 reasons to buy, therefore justifying spending the money, and write the order. We'd never miss. Right? But it don't work like that. They stuck it back here where you can't see it. And everybody's number is different. Yours might be a 3. You might be 103. And you might be a 13. But the really good salespeople, what they do is they just keep reeling off reasons to buy, figuring sooner or later they're going to hit the number. Make sense? Reasons to buy. If you don't believe that, people, stop and think about yourself. And I hope you don't accuse me of being a sexist, but this is such an easy example to use. Some of you ladies like to shop. I don't think you'd argue that one, right? And the mall is heaven on earth, okay? Now, this is what I'm trying to show you about being able to rationalize spending your money. Something the customer goes through, God bless them customers, every time you people come by to visit them. Let me put it in your terms so you understand what they go through. One of you lovely ladies is walking through the mall. And in the window of Neiman Marcus, or one of them, you see a blouse. And it's one of them that just kind of reaches out in the mall and slaps you silly. Whoa! God, that's beautiful. One of them kind. And immediately your mind goes to, I wonder how much it is. And you look in there and you see the price tag and you say, oh, Jesus. And immediately your mind goes to trying to rationalize spending that much money on that beautiful blouse that you want. Right? Yes. Now sometimes you score. Sometimes you're able to talk yourself into it. You know, you start out with, well, I got $50. The blouse is $49.95. My rent's due tomorrow. If I spend this $50, I'm $50 short on the rent. I better not do it. However, and here's where the old rationalization machine comes in. If I babysit for Uncle Herbie tonight, for them 2 brats, I can get $20. And if I polish my old man's car in the morning, I can get another 10. You know what I mean? And you start trying to figure out how you're going to get that thing because you want it. And sometimes you talk yourself into it, sometimes you don't. But that's the same thing your customers go through. Because they want it, all they need to do is to be able to justify spending the money. Make sense? Okay.